we've heard from one listener who got in touch with us last week saying that he'd been asked to scan a barcode on a smartphone to enter a Norfolk pub and then asked to pay using an app too. Because he doesn't have a smartphone, he didn't feel very happy about it. You can see if you're not in the position of having a technology, you can feel a bit excluded. Many businesses at the moment only want contactless payments, and some car parks in the county are now only taking payment via an app. Age UK is so concerned that it's written an open letter to the Financial Conduct Authority asking them to make sure older and vulnerable customers can still access cash. Let's talk more about this with Neil Garner. He's for the Chief Executive of Thyngs, a technology firm in Norwich which makes contactless pay points. Neil, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Your Thyngs with a Y, I should point out as well, but it's still pronounced Things, is it?
Yes, that's right. It's difficult to get domain names these days. Things would be amazing, but very challenging.
I'd imagine that was one of the first that went. But good to have you on the programme. Explain from your point of view what you do as a business.
So what you explained there about that QR code thing that people scan is what we do is we enable anything like table signage to be interactable via smartphones and then linked straight through to payments. So we're one of the companies that does that check-in service that you described, and we also do a lot of work for charities in particular to enable them to take donations effectively via smartphones without having to use cash. So that's what we do. So It's all about using your smartphone for payments and making life a bit easier.
And with so many shops and businesses understandably not wanting to take cash because, to use an old parent's phrase, you don't know where it's been, at the moment you don't, this sort of process has been really important, hasn't it? Really valuable to lots of restaurants, pubs and shops as well.
Absolutely. I mean, the other way to look at this is that cash and handling cash and going to ATMs and putting your cards into machines and touching pin pads is more dangerous because obviously you're touching things. So there's a whole thing that's been happening around getting towards what we call touch-free technology, which is the only way to make it touch-free is to either talk to somebody or use your smartphone to do something. And I think that's why there's that big trend towards using your smartphones a lot more. And we work really close with Apple. And Apple have seen massive rise in use of Apple Pay, which is obviously use of contactless but on mobile phones because people find it an awful lot more convenient.
So presumably this has been good news for your business. You've probably had quite a big upsurge in your demand, have you, during the pandemic or as we come out of it?
Well, it has been, because we've been doing this, what we call touch-free, app-free technology for a while, but I think the thing that's been the catalyst is people are much more aware now of using mobile to do things, much more aware of like touching other activities. So, one of the activities we're doing a lot of is working with major charities to help them define new ways to collect funds, because obviously people ain't on the streets chugging anymore with their charity buckets, or they're not able to use the old cash collection tins by the tills because people are no longer paying. So there's a lot of big change that's happening around many sectors to basically try and use smartphone technology better to aid, income for lots of charities that need help or lots of businesses that need to survive in the next few months.
What would you say to people who are worried about the security of all this? Because that is another concern, isn't it? Once you've scanned, then some details from your bank account and details about you have gone into a computer system somewhere and you're no longer in control of it.
So I would go the other way round. Is I've seen quite a lot of pubs that have opened up with scraps of paper being collected for check-ins, which have been collected by the staff members and put somewhere. So people's details have been collected or spoken about in a public environment where anyone can listen to or hear, which is not good for data privacy. Whereas if it's entered via your own smartphone, then the systems that we've got in place can automatically ensure that the data is deleted after 21 days. And if there is a marketing opt-in, it's actually done in a properly GDPR compliant way. And I think your challenge around people who haven't got smartphones is actually a server's smartphone can also be used in the same way to collect the details on behalf of a disabled or a vulnerable or someone who hasn't got a smartphone. So it can still be done in the same kind of way.
Yeah, that is important, isn't it? We can't live in a world where we assume everybody's up to date with the latest technology. Many people aren't. If you live in somewhere like Norfolk as well, you've got certain places where the mobile phone reception isn't actually very good at all. So
we've got a massive challenge.
Yeah, we've got to. You can only really go as quick as the sort of slowest person in this, can't you? The slowest in terms of how they are with technology, because we can't afford to leave everybody behind. We can't get into a position where some people can't buy things because they don't have the means.
Yeah, I think it goes the other way as well. There's a lot of people aren't carrying cash as much as they used to. So for places that are cash only, like say certain car parking venues, that makes it almost impossible to pay as well, because many people on the other side of it are used to using contactless everywhere. So we've got this. I think that divide is happening very quickly. Is actually there's a lot of people that are so comfortable using phones and contactless and expect it everywhere, and there's other people that are still using cash, but or prefer to use cash, but it's not clean. It's not as safe as using your own personal smartphone, which you can clean up whenever you feel like it.
Yeah, I've had both sides of it. I must admit, over the last few weeks, I've had occasions where I've gone somewhere with cash and they've said, no, you can only pay by contactless. And then I've had other times, particularly on car parks, where I turn up ready to pay with the app and they're still only taking coins. And then, because we've not been using as much cash, I don't have the change ready to pay in the car park. So it's got to sort of fit somehow.
It's whole piggy bank to get some cash.
Yeah.
So I hadn't actually got any.
It's an interesting one, but I think what is clear, Neil, I think you'd agree with this, is that COVID-19 and what we've gone through over the last few weeks has sped up the pace of this change, hasn't it?
It has 100%. It's sped it up. I mean, believe it or not, contactless was invented back in 2001, and it was actually up until only 5 years ago that people were really starting to use it properly. And now I think contactless is the biggest form of payment used in physical environments. And I think if you look at the statistics, there's probably 40% of people now are comfortable using their mobile phone to pay with contactless with things like Apple Pay and Google Pay. So the drive and change that's happened to move towards smartphone is huge. And if you look at markets like China, for example, every single person in China will be using smartphones to pay in the same kind of way because they've adopted it quicker than we have over here, for example.
That's an interesting one. Neil Garner from Thyngs in Norwich, thanks very much for joining us. An interesting one. Somebody who's been across this technology for a long time. Tim, our producer, what have we got coming in on this one?
Text 531.